So yes, my name is Domenico, I'm 36 years old. My main job is being a journalist. I work mostly with movies, so I'm not that journalist that goes into countries such as Iraq to do, great war reportage. But I watch films, and I'm paid to do so. So, after a while, you get to meet a lot of movie producers, and they all have the same issues. And those issues are most of the time that the movie they produce, they are not seen by enough people. So they were always asking me this question, like, where is the audience today? I mean, I'm making a movie with a director that is someone that is really passionate about what he's doing. I'm more about the business side of things, and I don't get my money back because people, they just don't go to movie theaters anymore. And for this generation of producers, the internet is like the devil. They fear that internet is eating the cinema, the movie industry. When the internet can be used and the digital technologies can be used to actually increase the potential of a story of a movie. So, this is my different nicknames and stuff on Twitter, if you want to tweet. And we also have a hashtag for today, which is crossmediascene, quite easy to use. First, I have a question for you. Do you know who the Baines are? This is a family. Anyone here knows about the Baines? Okay. No, it's normal. Okay, let me introduce you to Sam Baines. Sam Baines is the pater familias of the family. He's living in 1955. And on this evening, he's very proud because he brought home a brand new TV set. This is the first TV set the family is having, and they are all gathering at the dinner table to enjoy a live broadcast. So you see, this is quite an event. His wife Stella is applauding. His daughter Lorraine has an ecstatic face. I don't know if you can see it very well from here. But there's someone that is not really impressed, and this is Marty McFly, because Marty McFly is living in 1985. And in this scene of the movie Back to the Future, he's explaining to his future family that not only he's not impressed by a TV set, but at home he has two. And they are not believing him. They think he's bragging. And he's also talking about the broadcasting because it's something he has seen before. And he says that this is something he has seen recorded. And then they don't know anything about that at all because everything was live. So we are talking here about screen audience. In 1985, when the movie was released, it was a big thing to have two TV sets at home. Today, we have the concept of second screens. And second screen is a generic term. I mean, this is a statistic from 2012, and it's in the US. It says that 77% of the people watching TV in the US have at least a second screen connected, active at the same time. I can tell you that today, in France, there's an average of 7 screens per household. It looks incredible like that, but if you count the number of screens you're using every day, you will get around it. So, at least is really important, because I told you, in some countries much more, and almost everywhere today in the civilized world, we have more than 2 screens connected every time. Another word, active, is really important too, because those are active screens. Those are screens you ask questions to. This is on-demand consumption of a screen. So there's a problem with those screens. It's not a problem, but it's a problem when you have to make content for those screens. It's the mobility and the diversity of those second screens. And also, those screens are active. So it's not the same screen they were using in 1955 to watch live broadcasting of a show. It is something that you will consume while watching another broadcasting. So the definition of audience has quite evolved a bit. We would say that the active people, formerly known as a single-screen audience, is kinda the audience we want to reach today. But we still don't know where they are. So, the target group, is it human only? Because today you have to take those people into account, robots. If you create content on the internet, not only people have to find it, but also machines and algorithms have to find it as well. So the definition evolves a bit. The robots and the active people, formerly known as a single-screen audience, is probably the audience we are looking for today. Again, we still don't know where they are. So, how can you circle them a little bit more? We know that the leisure, time, and the money we dedicate to culture and to leisure are limited. And we know that the offer is growing. Every day there's more and more content to be consumed on the internet, on mobile applications, on TV, in cinema still. But we know for sure that the desire for stories lives on, because it's true that not less books are written, but less books are read, and less movie tickets are sold. But we know that there are more TV series that are consumed, and the video games market is booming. And those are stories too. So, we can tell for sure that people have cross-media habits. You have cross-media habits. I was telling you about this scene from the movie Back to the Future before. I came up with this image because I was preparing this presentation while watching the film, so this was already a second screen consumption. But in this scene, they are watching a TV show about Jackie Gleason. Jackie Gleason is a famous stand-up comic from the 40s. And I didn't know anything about him. And when I saw the movie for the first time back in the 80s, I didn't know anything about Jackie Gleason, and I spent the next 20 years not knowing anything about Jackie Gleason. And yet, the very scene is about him. So what I did while watching this movie 20 years later is I Googled it. While watching, I didn't pause, I just Googled the name Jackie Gleason. And I found the Wikipedia page where everything about Jackie Gleason was explained. So my second screen actually enhanced my watching of the film. And this is something that was not foretold in 1985 when the movie was released. Robert Zemeckis, that made the movie, he just put Jackie Gleason out there because for him, this was someone famous and someone important. He didn't really care about the audience. He presumed that the audience knew who Jackie Gleason was. And 20 years later, now we know. I don't know if you knew about Jackie Gleason, but I didn't. You did, Michelle? Okay. So I was the ignorant person, but I'm not anymore. So you see, my second screen helped me to enhance my movie experience. So to meet those habits, those cross-media habits, you have to write for the people actually having those habits. So, what do we know? Trying to find them now. So people that have cross-media habits, they are basically everywhere. They spend time on YouTube, on Twitter, on the App Store, on Facebook, on Wikipedia, cinema, games, and so on. For some of those habits, we have quite precise statistics. Like, for example, Facebook. We know that 53% of Facebook users, they play game. That 20% they pay cash for in-game benefits. And you know that 50% of those people at least are women and stuff like that. So those are not very accurate statistics because it's infographic and it is made to impact on your mind. But this is something that is quite precise when you go into details. There are people working into building those statistics and they are not coming out of the blue. So if you inspire yourself out of those statistics to create a storytelling campaign or a marketing campaign, then you have more chances to succeed. For example, if you plan to broadcast a short movie on Facebook, and your short movie is like 15 minutes, there's no way doing it, because people, they only spend like 2 minutes watching a video on Facebook. So they will not watch even 2 minutes of your video because they will have the feeling that it's not complete, so they won't watch it. There are other ways to do it. Maybe it's better to make a teaser, a 2-minute teaser of your short movie on Facebook. Then they will watch the teaser and maybe watch your short movie later. And cinema is just part of it. I mean, it's a media like others. If you have a transmedia or a cross-media device, I will explain that a little bit later, but cinema is only a part of it. So, let's say you have a film or a short film. What you will do to attract attention is maybe do a little bit of marketing, social recommendations, friends recommending your shorts on Facebook, having maybe a little good press, because bad press is not really good for you. Maybe you will create a contest to win tickets or to win goodies so that people will be attracted to your film. But there are several other things, like you can do a book, video game, interaction, live performance, a website, a mobile app. All that is not the film, but it's the movie experience. This is something that is larger than the film itself. So to give you an analogy, to get to understand this movie experience a little bit better, I will compare VOD to LOD. LOD is a completely invented term, but you will understand. So video on demand. This is something like today everybody knows about. LOD is live on demand. So, for example, VOD is going online. You put your movie and you put it online and then it's VOD. It's like, for example, a filmed concert. The LOD is the experience itself, it's the concert itself, it's being there, attending the live performance. So if you have to choose between the two, you will always choose the live experience. In the case of a concert. Why? Because it is unique. I mean, a concert from a specific band is not the same that the same concert from this band the day after. I mean, it's not the case for bands like Coldplay or stuff like that, but because they always do the same thing, I'm sorry. But no, it is unique. And it's active, because you can actually shout, throw fruits at Coldplay, and interact with the other people, and with the people on the stage as well. And it is a shared experience, because you're not alone, unless you're really rich and you can buy yourself a Coldplay concert. It will happen for very cheap in not so long. But it is something you share with other people. There's a connection between those people. I remember finding myself, I don't know if you have done that before, but when I go to a live concert, I try to find other people attending the same live show. I try to find videos on YouTube that were recorded during that show, because, you know, everybody's like that with this cell phone during the show. Where do those videos go? They go on YouTube, and most of the time I find them. So this is the experience. It's like a Chuck Berry concert. So what we want to do is add something else with the live on demand. We have the play part. And this is this. I mean, in Back to the Future, Marty McFly, at the end of the movie, in the first episode, is playing a Chuck Berry song on stage in 1955. And he's living the song. Chuck Berry is idol, and he is Chuck Berry on stage at that specific moment. So, if what you want to do is put the robots and the active people, formerly known as a single-screen audience, on stage, no matter how your audience is structured, even it's a very complex separation and a very complex organized audience, you still have your audience and the stage separate. So yes, if you want to do precisely that, it's a paradox. You cannot do it. I mean, the audience is the audience. The stage is the stage. It will remain like that. So the term audience has to be changed. For the movie experience, we cannot use the word audience. When I have a movie producer getting back to me saying, where is the audience? I have to answer him that it's not what he's seeking. He's not seeking an audience, he's seeking a community. I mean, an experience is something you share with a community. Because actually, community is exactly that. It's the robots and the active people, formerly known as a single-screen audience. And the question, where are you, is not even relevant anymore. We have to ask ourselves another question, and it is, how many are we and what do we do together? So, the term we is important because you actually belong to your own community. and you don't belong to your audience. You are not a member of your audience. If you're on stage, you cannot be in the audience. So you are not the one-man band anymore. And this is important. If I take back my analogy with the movie Back to the Future, when Marty McFly is playing that song, at some point in the song, he starts playing for himself. So he loses the band. He does some kind of heavy metal solo, and the band stops completely to play. And the people in the crowd, they also stop dancing. And he's alone playing his stuff. And this is not working anymore for him. So at the very most, you are the composer and the lead singer. And that's it with the analogy with music, because that's pretty much how far you can go. As such, you have power. You have choices, like you can decide the set list, you can decide the members of your band. But you know, the way they play, the way you play together, this is synergy. This is something that has to happen as a group. So back to your film, short film, it can be whatever creative things you have created, but this is what someone told me once. It is an archaic form of storytelling. I disagree a little bit with that, because it's a form of art and it has to live on, but yes, somehow film has not evolved so much in the last century. The movie experience is the modern form of storytelling, and it can include a film. But it's still storytelling. Both share at least that. It's telling a story. This is all it is about. So, what can you do with a film if you only stick to the film itself? You can go multimedia. You know this concept that is quite abandoned today. But multimedia is telling the same story in the same way, but on different medias. Like you can print your movie on a DVD, you can go VOD on a mobile, but it's still the same film, unfolded the same way. With the movie experience, you have the choice. You can go cross-media or transmedia. Now, both of those terms are different ways of telling a story. It is a multi-platform story. One platform equals one script, meaning that every platform is scripted, and then your story world, your big story, will be the sum of all those scripts. But not all of them are mandatory. I mean, you can skip one, it's okay. You have different story arcs, so it's okay to follow those separately, but at one point, if you want to go deeper into the story world, there's a way to do it, by connecting to the different elements. So, cross-media. This is what we try to achieve when we do cross-media marketing for a film. We create a website, we create social networks, comic book, game, mobile app, marketing, live performance, but the point of all those things are for people to go see the film. This is marketing. The sole point of it is to increase the impact, the scope of the popularity of your movie itself. When transmedia is different, in transmedia you will create exactly the same objects, the platforms are quite the same, but you connect them. Like you can start your story in a comic book, then have the sequel in a film, then go through a website, then back to a mobile application, but basically everything is possible. You can connect everything and tell your story using those different platforms. So either you go cross-media or you do some transmedia, but you can also do both. There are projects that were cross-media, then became transmedia. I have an example that is quite famous, it's Harry Potter. The Harry Potter experience is first books. I mean, J.K. Rowling, she wrote like 7 books and was quite successful at it. She gathered a huge community, and then they decided to make movies. But actually the story of the movies is the exact same stories of the book. Not exactly the same, it's adapted to the cinema medium, but it's replicating the script, the scenario of the books. So this is like a cross-media effect. But what they did afterwards is that they created this website called Pottermore, and this was after the movies. And I told you there are 7 books, but there are 8 movies, for example. because adapting the books to the movie medium, they took other things into consideration, and so they adapted it, they created one more movie to include 3D, to include technological aspects, but also because by that time they knew that the movies were quite successful, and by creating one more movie they will gather a lot more money. Because J.K. Rowling, she stopped writing books about Harry Potter, so they had to use that franchise at the most. But what happened too is that J.K. Rowling wrote like this, I think it's the two last books, I'm not a specialist in Harry Potter, but the two last books, she wrote them having the characters of the movie in mind. Because the first movies were out already, so when she was imagining Harry Potter, she imagined the actor. So it has an impact. If you analyze the books, it has an impact on the books. So there's some kind of binary back and forth storytelling system between the movies and the books. Then there's the website. The website, I don't know if you know about Pottermore. Who knows about Pottermore here? Some of you, okay. So she created this website to experience the Harry Potter universe in a different way, in an interactive way. So it is open to the Harry Potter community, but one part of this website is quite interesting, is that fans can actually submit fan fiction. So they write stories that are happening in the Harry Potter universe, and J.K. Rowling herself, when she found those stories interesting, she validates those stories, meaning that they actually happened like that in the Harry Potter universe. If someone is telling a story about the use of Dumbledore, then if it's validated by J.K. Rowling that this is what happened, and the next one that will write a story about Dumbledore in this use will have to take that into consideration. But Pottermore is something that was orchestrated, created, and managed, and moderated as well. But there's even more. I mean, if you go to a website like fanfiction.net, this is a website that take all the fanfiction that exists on some franchise, we can see that Harry Potter has more than 600,000 stories written by fans. Those are not stories that are on Pottermore, those are other stories. And all those stories are about the Harry Potter universe. And I'm sure that today it's even more. I think there are at least 650,000. So if you take the other franchise, of course you have Twilight, Lord of the Rings. Those are all universes that are pretty accessible and keen to have fanfiction written on. But here you have the Bible. So even today, there are people writing stories that are happening in the Bible universe. Like maybe, I don't know, it's not only about Jesus, but people are creating stories that happen in the Bible context. This is quite impressive, but in terms of impact, you cannot compare Harry Potter and the Bible. I mean, the popularity is completely different. So, if you take the J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, it's 7 books, but the Harry Potter experience is almost 650,000 books. Those are not only books, there are of course short stories, like sometimes it's just a paragraph, but sometimes there are some of those books that are bigger than a Harry Potter book written by J.K. Rowling. So not only it is more, like way much more, but it's also happening as we speak. During this presentation, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, maybe 1,000 stories in the Harry Potter universe will be written by fans everywhere in the world. So the Harry Potter universe, the Harry Potter experience lives on. And it is something that is completely transmedia. Because it's here, it's where you stand. I mean, you belong to your community, you are the one starting the whole thing. So unless you don't know where you are, I mean, it's not a relevant question. The movie experience starts with you, with your crew. I mean, if you're directing a film, then there's a lot of stuff and a lot of stories you can actually already tell and share with your future community. And your community is something that you will have custom for yourself. So maybe you will need, for sure, ambassadors, content producers, publishers, seeders. The seeders are the people formerly known as distributors. I work a lot with producers and in the movie industry, and I really don't believe in distributors. I think this is personal advice, but I think that those middlemen, they will cease to exist after a while, or they have to adapt. And strangely enough, this is a profession that is adapting the most slowly. I mean, producers, they are adapting. Directors, they are adapting. The audience is adapting. But distributors, they keep distributing the movies in the same way. Not all of them, but most of them, at least in France and Belgium, where I come from. So you will need, of course, funders, because everything costs money, players, and stuff like that. So whatever you do, you're up for some serious community building. So, to build a community, you will need the tools. So, there are various. You can use social networks, you can use crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, you can use a game, you can use a movie, just to create your community. A word about crowdfunding, because I don't think other speakers will spend a lot of time on it, but it's not really about the money you gather with crowdfunding. I mean, in France, for a project put on a platform like Tuscoprod, which is the biggest cinema crowdfunding platform in France, they only gather about 8,000 euros per project. This is an average. If you have a production budget, 8,000 euros is basically nothing. And this is for a long feature. For a short film, they will not gather that amount of money. So, but what you can do with those 8,000 is, for example, pay the salary of a community manager. Today, in a production budget, there's no money dedicated to someone to manage and to build a community. But with 8,000 euros in Europe, you can hire, I don't know, a community manager for 3 months, and he will work full-time, dedicated to your film, to promote it and to seed it on the different platforms. Also, the people that invest money in crowdfunding, if I put 20 euros in a film, I will follow that film. I will be interested in the movie, and I will also be keen to brag about it, because there's a little bit of me inside the film, even though it's a small amount of money. So, I invest 20 euros, but I also promote the movie. I'm an ambassador of the film. Except for the serial crowdfunders, and those exist as well. They invest in a lot of movies and they don't promote them a lot. But for the people that really are touched by the story and to the point of investing a little bit of their money in it, then it's a good asset. And those are really the good basis to build a community. So crowdfunding can really be an asset. You have like successful stories, like this movie Iron Sky, that gather almost 1 million euros just by crowdfunding. But it's a case study, it's really interesting, but this is only happening once in a while. In the US, just a few months ago, they decided to do a movie about Veronica Mars on Kickstarter, and overnight the project gathered $8 million. So you see the balance between Europe and the US doesn't only exist in cinema, it also exists in transmedia. I mean, this is all about how the people behave. It's a cultural and economical problem. But we are still able to create good stories in Europe, and we can challenge any good story in the world just by being creative. But you can be as good as you want as a storyteller, then if nobody reads your story, or if nobody sees it, or if nobody connects with your story, then you spend your time for nothing, only for the sake of art. And this is the problem today. Directors, some of them are really good, but they don't really know how to reach the audience through this invisible barrier that exists today. So tools and then muscle, of course, you will need, you will need most probably a community manager, because it's huge, it's very time consuming to address the people, to seed, to gather information, to publish. It's quite difficult and it takes a lot of time. And you have to be really passionate about the project too, so please don't hire professional community managers. Those people may be selling shampoos the week before they are selling your film. So the best thing is to take someone that is intimate with your project, really passionate about it, and then if he's not really good at community managing, then it can be formed and can be trained for that in almost not even a week. And then after that, it will be more effective than a professional community managers. So you will also need ambassadors, maybe developers, software programmers, storytellers, of course, and seeders. This is not exhaustive. You have a lot of other muscle you can use. Creativity is also really important, of course, because it's all about storytelling, so you have to be creative in the way you use the tools. It's good to have a Facebook page, but it's frankly useless if it's only to talk about your own film and say, okay, my film is good, look how good my film will be, this is my actor, this is another unfamous actor, but he's very good, I swear. Nobody believes that, and nobody cares. If you have a very sexy actor, then yeah, but you will have to put him naked to have people actually, you know, connect in a way with him. So you can be super creative with the use of the tools, and this is something that cannot be explained. I mean, this is a new job actually. I mean, most of you, I think, are in marketing, and this is what marketing is about. I mean, for me, transmedia is like a combination between marketing, between art and storytelling, and also you have to be a good financier, because you have to gather the money necessary to build and to give you the means to actually be able to create something. So in a lot of ways it's the same thing as movie producing, because you have to gather the money, find the funds, then find the right director, find a good script, then create what you have to create in a very pragmatic fashion. But the difference between transmedia and movie producing is that today, either in Europe or in the US, there are business models, and you have a scheme that you apply almost every time the same way, and then your movie eventually will get done. Transmedia, there's no business model, but there are some business cases. It's really case by case. Every project is different, so you have to find your own way of making money, if you want to make money, because there are some projects that are state-funded, and the point of those projects is not to make money. So you have to really come with a creative strategy. I must say that improvisation is also quite an asset. I will give you a small example. I worked last year on an animation film called The Suicide Shop by Patrice Lecomte, and it is an animation film, and when they created it, they didn't really care about the target. It's not for kids, and it's not for adults, because it's too kiddish for adults, but the theme, the suicide, it's not really something that you will bring your kid to. I mean, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she never saw the animation film, because I didn't want to explain her what suicide was and stuff like that. So they had a huge problem in connecting with their target. So we were struggling, we created a Facebook game, we created a mobile application and stuff like that to promote the film and to enhance a little bit of its story, but we had a hard time finding the right trigger to have actually people caring about that film. And Patrice Lecomte is really famous in France. He is one of the most bankable directors out there. So what happened is that during the promotion of the film, Tony Scott committed suicide. And I remember I saw the news on Twitter and said, okay, right away we have to do something about this without being insulting, without doing defamation, and trying to adapt this tragic fact to our campaign. And we just created out of the blue a Pinterest page that was created by the owner of the shop, because the story of the film is it's a shop that will sell you suicide tools to commit suicide. And we created this Pinterest page only with pictures of clients, saying, okay, we have Jimi Hendrix, we have a lot of people, Kurt Cobain, people like that, and then we put Tony Scott pictures out there, and we started reblogging and pinning all the pictures we found of Tony Scott out there, of people, of fans, and stuff like that. And after a while, it worked. I mean, overnight, we had more than 2,000 people following that page, and then we had a press article on that, I mean, it has nothing to do with the campaign we created with more than 80,000 euros. This was something we did for free, improvised. But without that, nobody would have gone playing our games. Because then it started. Then the people came to the game and said, okay, those people, maybe they have the right tone. And maybe the movie is in that tone as well. Sadly, it was not, but yeah, they had the feeling that the movie was a little bit more sympathetic than what the trailers were showing. So another point that is really important in my experience is rewards. I mean, people, they always do something, an active action on the internet for a reason. It hasn't to be a prize money, it can be, but it can be also a prize like gifts, like a virtual badge, you know, those things that people were starting sharing on Farmville, and really proud to earn, unlock badges. But it can also be a role, like a part in a film, for example. We are doing this now, opening second parts in a movie to the crowdfunders, so people that will invest money in the film will actually have a part in the film. So it cannot work for every film, but this is something that is rewarding for the person that are committed to your project. It can also be a simple credit mention. I mean, Iron Sky, that's what they did. If a lot of people stayed until the end of the credits because, and it's hard to do so, and just because their name was there, so they took pictures once their name was there, and this is enough to invest 20, 30, maybe 40 euros and speak about the film and then share this picture with their name on the screen. I mean, you can, maybe not now because the movie has been released for quite a time now, but by the time the movie was released, you could do a search on Twitter and find a lot of those pictures. Only pictures of credits with just a name. So yeah, community building. So what you want to achieve, I mean, is this ugly word that everybody knows about, it's buzz. I mean, everybody today is trying to make some buzz, and this is actually the publicity formerly known as word of mouth. If we go back to word of mouth, this is really a 1955 concept. Like in this scene of Back to the Future, when Marty plays this song on stage, one of the musicians go on the side of the stage and telephones to Chuck Berry. It is the cousin of Chuck Berry, Marvin Berry, a fictional character. And so he calls his cousins and he says, okay, you know, you're looking for some new sound? Here it is. And it's actually a Chuck Berry sound Marty is playing. I mean, this is a trick of the script, but it's quite an inventive trick as well. And this is word of mouth. Except it's even more evolved here because it's on the phone. It's not word of mouth like that, but yeah, this is what we are still trying to achieve today, and this is called buzz. But actually, the effect formerly known as buzz is this. I mean, the like button, the fact that you will measure how many likes you had. This is a way to quantify your buzz. Quite an artificial one, but it's true that today everybody is trying to achieve that. So, what you will want, of course, is to kickstart your project, you know, on flames, on fire, and have it overnight being very, very successful. But transmedia is not like a movie. I mean, a movie is a very short time frame, a window on the screens to be successful. Otherwise, it will have to catch up on VOD or on DVD and stuff like that. With transmedia, you can take a little bit more time, and you can unfold your story during, I don't know, 1 year, maybe forever. Look at the Harry Potter experience. It's happening and happening and happening over again. The success can be measured, but over some time. So you have to give yourself a little bit more time. Of course, some of them are happening. I mean, Gangnam Style was quite a success. But do you really believe Gangnam Style was just this Korean dude alone that did this clip that was a 200,000 euro clip put just for YouTube on the internet like that? No, it was orchestrated. They had people behind it. There were studios that worked on that. And of course, it worked very well in that case, a lot of views. But you cannot really plan to achieve that success. So buzz is cool, movie experience is cool, but if your movie experience is a boring experience, then it will bounce into a bad experience, and we all know where this ends up. So, if you're storytellers, first of all, come up with a piece of paper and a good story. Then you will find the different platforms where to unfold your story, but you have to tell something entertaining or relevant first. You can have a super device with, you know, QR codes and stuff, and then your story is irrelevant. It's completely basic and nobody will care. So you will invest a lot of time, a lot of money into something that is not worth it. So if you want to create this buzz, first of all, create a good story. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Domenico? Jong microphone. One question there.
Hello, thank you for the wonderful presentation.
Where are you?
I'm here.
Okay. I was dreaming because, you know, I'm a journalist, and during those press conferences we ask questions and there's always Brad Pitt saying, "Where are you?"
Okay, so could you please highlight us the touch points of your presentation, and where is the audience actually, and how should we reach it?
Well, as I tried to demonstrate, the audience, I mean, you are the audience, so you have habits. You have to, for example, if you spend, and there are statistics for that, but if you spend half an hour a day on Facebook when you wake up, before having lunch, or, you know, this is some time you know that every day you will be spending on Facebook, on your emails, or stuff like that. You can anticipate that and have your story take that route. Be present on Facebook during that time frame and try to catch those people that are spending half an hour on Facebook. But who are those people? I mean, active people that have office jobs will do that. But, you know, people that are more, you know, independent and maybe they won't spend that half an hour at that specific time. So it really depends on the target you have in mind. And then you try to reach them accordingly to their...
So, if I am an independent movie producer, how should I reach my audience, in your opinion, please?
Depending on your project. I mean, your audience will be always different depending on the project you have. I will give you an example. There's this, I don't know if you heard about it, this web documentary called I Love Your Work. It's quite recent. It has been created, like, I think 2 months ago. And this is a web documentary about the making of a lesbian porn movie. It's not a lesbian porn movie, it's a making of a lesbian porn movie. So, because the theme was quite, you know, hot, they decided to create this web documentary online on a reserved space. You will have to pay, it's a ticketing system. You have to pay to access this web documentary. And actually they only allow 10 people during a time frame of 24 hours to see the documentary. So you have to book your seat to see the documentary. But they had a strategy in mind, is that if you do that and you come to the website and you see that you book your ticket and you're on for the next hour, it means that you're not successful. So what they did is that they took 10 days, at least, I think it was a week, to book your ticket. So you would book a ticket and say, okay, you have to wait a week because we are booked. And so your interest was, you know, quite pinched by that. And then you would start Googling and say, okay, has anybody seen this? No, it's reserved, blah, blah, blah. And maybe they didn't make like 200,000 views, but they made 2,000. 2,000, $10, it's $20,000 with a web documentary that usually if you put it online with no creative strategy in mind, you will get zero money.
Right, could we please summarize that? Could you please give us 3 simple ways in reaching the audience?
Okay,
Like,
Facebook ads.
Yeah, okay.
Those are simple ways that are...
Besides the Facebook ads, please.
No, it really depends on the project. I mean, Facebook ads are always effective because Facebook is built on that system today. It's quite cheating a little bit on you, saying it's a free platform. It's not. If you want to use Facebook to promote something, then you will have to pay. So, no, I mean, you want like a cooking recipe.
3 simple ways. Just
simple ways.
Yeah, 3 simple sentences, please.
Okay, well, money,
the first one,
creativity, and someone help me.
You should have money.
Yeah, and a good story is the first thing. Yeah, money is always important. Come on, I mean, always.
You want some help?
Yeah.
The way to reach your audience is to figure out what they want to hear. So, and it depends on project for project. And the reason we like Facebook is that it's really cheap and it's easy to spread. And it doesn't take so much to make an ad. But it's never going to get you a real deep interaction.
No,
so
I disagree.
sometimes it will be a theater play in Switzerland with augmented reality games and audio games. Other times it will be a small event where you maybe show up and do a dance scenography, for example, Simon. And people on the spot help the dancer to choreograph it and it turns into an art exhibition. And other time it's an online narrative, an adaptation of an old book, let's say Jane Austen, that in New York gets spread over 10 different social networks. So it really depends on the project and the time.
Yeah, but there's no business model. That's what I was saying before. I mean, this is how you have to be creative. It's there. I mean, you can be a good storyteller. You have to find out a good creative strategy as well to communicate with your community and build it.
Right.
If there were 3 rules, I mean, everybody would be applying them, and we won't have this.
Okay. I'd like to answer you just with one rule that I think is a big change in the way we perceive how we reach the audience today, and I don't know if Domenico you would agree with this, is that where in the past we thought of us having to go out and look for an audience to attract them to what we do, now the logic is go where the audience is already.
Yeah. Right, so the simple question is, I have a minimum budget. Right, I'm quite an unknown artist, yeah, and I have a very good story, a brilliant story. And how do I attract my audience besides Facebook?
Well, it depends on the script you have. I mean,
a wonderful script.
No, then use wonderful.com to promote it.
Everyone believes in that.
No. If your story is about, it's really visual, maybe you can come up with a way to use Instagram in a creative way to promote your story. If your story is about, I don't know, it's a genre story, then maybe you can use platforms that are more, you know, like Tumblr and stuff like that, that are more...
Do we have an alternative besides the social media?
Sure, you can do nothing.
Like what?
I mean, you're not forced to use social media, nobody is. But this is what I was telling you. If you still apply those schemes where you presume that people will gather family in front of a screen to see what you have produced, it's not happening anymore. This is like it's a fantasy. So people today, they are split, but we still know where they are. It's just that you have to find a way for your story to be present in all those spots where the public is actually attending.
Be more exact?
I can't.
I'm sorry, I think we...
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, maybe the other presentation will get more precise about that. Case studies, it's the best way to explain that. Sorry.
The day is long and we are running a little bit late. We have another 2 or 3 minutes for a very short question. Anybody in the audience? No? Okay, so in the meanwhile, while Michel's preparing for his presentation, it would be good to mention that we are here not just because the event is taking for the 3rd year, but we are here for our partners and organizers. So thank you, Ito Tesdel, the British Council, Prime Field, Rootweb Startup Space, and Multicultural Center. We are here for them. And yeah, 2 minutes before...